Hi friends, I'm Felicia. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I think you can see this mess here. I have a pile of books here. The books that I pulled for my booktube spin video, and they're still here because now I want to reorganize my shelves. So they're still just sitting on the floor. So yeah, and then there's like a box of magazines here that I don't know what to do. So there we go. Okay, anyway, so I'm gonna do my January wrap up. Haven't done November or December or like my best books of the year. And at this point, do I bother? Are you still interested? You know what? If even one of you says that you're still interested to know in any or all of those things, please let me know. Like I could at least do, I could do those wrap ups. I could do my best books of 2020. Let me know. If there is but one interested person, for their sake, I shall do it. Okay, but yeah, I'm gonna do my January reads. So I read 5 books in January, and an interesting thing is that I tend not to read a lot in January, and I don't know why that is. Oh, I gotta show you my cup. I don't know if you'll be able to see. No, it's not working. Maybe you can see from here. Chris made this out of a salsa jar. Many years ago, he engraved a Link type character on here. And then it says, "You got a jar, now to fill it with something tasty." And then at the bottom, he put yum. I'm drinking water out of our Link jar glass. Oh my gosh. I didn't want to edit this video very much, so I should just get on with the books, hey? And I'm sitting on the floor and it's so cold. Oh boy. Today, just, now here's the story about Manitoba life. So, I think starting since Friday, I guess we're in a polar vortex, because it's like legitimately minus 30, degrees Celsius. So, oh, I'm trying to remember the way to convert it to Fahrenheit. Plus, so it's like 0, I guess. I don't know. Did I do that right? Anyways, just watching me struggle here on the struggle bus. Yeah, so it felt like minus 45 with the wind chill. So yeah, that was a fun weekend. And then today, Chris's car wouldn't start. And so we had to try boosting it before work. Still didn't start, so he took my car and dropped me off at work. Yeah, so that was not fun. Trying to boost his car when it wasn't working. And then we're like, where are the cables? I thought they were in your car. I thought they were in your car. And they were in Chris's car, literally on the back seat. Anyway, so that's my Canada story. Don't know. We'll probably have to try to get his car starting today. So we'll have to do it this evening yet. Oh gosh. I just thought of that. Ugh. Anyways. Okay. Now I'm really going to talk about the books that I read in January. And yeah, like I was saying, I tend to not read a lot in January, and I don't know why that is. But I read 5 books. So yeah, and I have none of them. 2 of them were Kindle books, and 3 of them were library books that I had to bring back already. So, the first book that I finished in 2020 was What Falls from the Sky by Esther, Emery. And that is I read that on my Kindle. And that is a year-long experiment kind of book, which I tend to like. Memoirs of a year-long experiment. So Esther Emery decided to go without the internet for a year, and she goes through that year, kind of the things leading up to that decision, and then like how things went. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting. She's a good writer. Kind of the funny thing is that, sorry, my bangs, my toque squished them. kind of the funny thing is that the book was published in 2012 or 2014, something like that. Quite a few years ago already. And the funny thing is that she kind of has dropped off the radar again. So it's like, oh, did you give up internet again? Are you okay? Yeah, it's interesting. Anyways, I really enjoyed it, and I thought there was a lot of good meditations in there, like about living without internet and that stimulation and distraction, and like how that makes your life richer. Excuse me. But yeah. And then also it's like about her faith journey as well, which, I mean, if that's not something that interests you, but you're interested in the other part, like, still read it. But yeah, it's also like how she she's kind of agnostic, I think, like a lapsed Christian. Her husband was an atheist, at least at the time of writing. She never does say if he ends up converting to her beliefs or anything, but at least that he's accepting of hers. But yeah, it's kind of like how she started going to church and seeking God in the midst of like kind of dealing with the things that caused her to give up internet. So yeah, I really liked it. I would recommend it if that's the kind of thing that interests you. Okay, then I read another book that I had on Kindle, but I listened to the audiobook while I was knitting. And that was House of Many Ways by Diana Wynne Jones, and that's the last book in the trilogy. What is the trilogy called? Land of Ingary. But the first book is Howl's Moving Castle, and this is the last book. The second book, Castle in the Air, is... Hello? Yeah, can I help you? Yeah? Do you want to be on the video? No? Okay. She won't. She doesn't want me to pick her up. Castle in the Air, which I always get confused with Castle in the Sky, which is another Ghibli movie, but they're not the same. They're not related stories at all. Anyways, that's the second book. So I read House of Many Ways, which is the final book in the trilogy, and I really liked it. It's about a girl named Charmaine, and she is conscripted to take care of her uncle's or great uncle's house, or her aunt's uncle by marriage or something. Like, there's some kind of crazy relation there. She takes care of his house while he is in the hospital, recovering from a procedure, and then it turns out that he is a wizard and his house is magic, and so shenanigans ensue. I really liked it. This is a really fun trilogy. The audiobook is really good, so I would recommend it. Oh, here you are. Here's a cat. Oh, you're so big. Look at this cat. You're gonna be 11 this... No, you're 10 this year, eh? You're almost 10 years old. She's not excited about it. She's gonna... Okay. Oh yeah, so I would recommend it. It was very fun. Okay, then I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, which I borrowed from the library and willfully incurred late fees because I was almost done and I couldn't renew it because someone else had requested it, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep it and read it until I'm done. So I had to pay 50 cents to read that book, and I don't even care. So I'm sure you've heard about this book because it was absolutely blowing up BookTube over the past few months, and there were things about it that I didn't like that dropped down my enjoyment a lot, but for the story that it was, I really liked it. So, basic premise, a young woman makes a deal with an old god, a dark spirit. It's kind of called a bunch of different things like that. She makes a deal with him for freedom, and she's like in the late 1700s. And so the way that he gives her freedom is that he puts a curse on her that As soon as she is out of people's sight, they forget about her. She can't say her name. She's not bound to anyone. No one is bound to her. That's how she has her freedom. And so it kind of goes between present, which is like 2014, and kind of like the past. It goes back and forth over the years. Anyways, for like over 300 years. So I thought it was, first of all, I like V. Schwab's writing. This was the first book that I've read by her, and I have 4 books by her that I haven't read yet, and then the first book of hers that I read is a library book. Like, go figure. But now I'm more motivated to read those books. So yeah, I really like her writing style. I think it works for me. What else did I like? Love plots with immortal characters. I've just realized, like, over the last few months, like, I really like stories that have immortal characters. And yeah, I thought it was interesting. And some of my cons were that, like, content-wise, there is so much just, like, casual sex and, like, drug use and drinking. So, like, but, like, and it made me so sad because these characters are just, like, so empty on the inside, and that's how they're trying to, like, numb that emptiness. And I'm like, you guys need Jesus. You're so sad. Jesus will fill your heart. So that's, like, that was my feeling as I was reading it. So, like, it honestly made me so sad. I was like, this is so sad. So sad. But, like, also, it made sense, kind of, I guess, for the characters. You know, I felt, interestingly, this covers, 300 years, and I felt like it was a little bit too long. And yeah, there were, like, probably more that I put in my Goodreads review. The ending, at first, I didn't like it. And then I went back and read it again later, and I was like, you know what, this works for the characters. So then I was okay with it. Still not the ending I would have wanted, but it was okay. If you don't like open endings, then you won't like the ending of this. Just heads up. But yeah, so, like, if you're interested, read it. If you are turned off by some of those content things, like, it really is throughout the book. Like, it's there. So if you don't like those things, then give it a pass. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that. If you have more questions, you can ask. And then the last 2 books that I read were a duology, and that is The Line Between and A Single Light by Tosca and Chantal from An Intentional Life recommended these books to me, and I'm glad that she did. Really liked it. And definitely want to read more Tosca in the future. So the first book in this duology starts off with a girl named Winter getting excommunicated from a cult. And yeah, that's where it starts. And then as she is dealing with all of these things, adjusting to her new life outside of the cult, then a pandemic starts sweeping the world. And that's kind of how things are. So part of this, yeah. So she's trying to deal with this pandemic, and she's also trying to get her sister and niece out of the cult. So yeah, it was really interesting. I will say the first book I liked more than the second book, because the first book takes place over, like, a year time span. Like, it's very spread out. And then the second book, most of the book takes place over, like, 4 days. So, and I read them back to back. So it was just, like, really just like a gear shift. Like we skipped a gear or something. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was just like, whoa, okay, so we're just really slowing things down here. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so interesting. And like Chantel now, after having read it, she's like wants to read books about cults. And I also am like, yeah, I would like pick up another book about like cults. Like I get where she's coming from now because that was really interesting. I'm always really interested by the psychology that goes on with ex-cult members. Like it's just fascinating. But yeah, I would recommend that duology if you're like into either of those things. It's also kind of like a thriller. So if you like that too, if you like Tosca, like read it. But yeah, so the things that I have picked up from this month that I would like to read more of going forward, and you can recommend to me books that do interesting things with time, immortal characters, or characters with a natural long life, and pandemics and cults. I mean, pandemics is kind of like an ongoing thing. Like, ever since the start of the pandemic, I just want to read books about pandemics, which is just bizarre. I think it's just because in the book it ends. So I feel like it's closing that loop, maybe. Just like that bit of closure. Like, okay, yeah, that pandemic ends. Okay, so we can... Okay, cool. But yeah, so that's what I read in January. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you have any thoughts about them, if you read Addie LaRue and thought the hype was worth it, or if it was overhyped. Yeah, if you have any book recommendations for me based on these other things, let me know what you read in January that you really liked. I'm not quite sure what's happening here with my hands. My forehead's itchy, bear with. Yeah. Oh, I will also say that I did not do as much reading in January because Chris and I got obsessed with Taskmaster on YouTube. Please tell me if you watched Taskmaster and like who your favorite contestants have been. I just really want to connect with people about Taskmaster right now. So, yeah. Okay, so that's it for me. I'm going to stop talking now, and I hope that you have a really good day. And thanks for watching, and until next time, so long, and thanks for all the fish.